If we put aside old prejudices and look past the historical censorship that once surrounded this book, D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover reveals itself to be something entirely unexpected. It is not a vulgar story about betrayal or cheap thrills. Instead, it is a deeply moving epic of emotional healing, written for anyone who has ever felt lonely, numb, or lost in the modern world. Lawrence is offering us a gentle story about how life wakes up again, and how two lonely souls can find a way to keep each other warm in a freezing world. The story begins without any villains. It simply starts with two fragile, lonely people who have been dealt a cruel hand by fate. Connie, full of life and hope for the future, marries the young, wealthy, and brilliant Clifford. The brutal reality of the First World War tears their dreams apart. Clifford returns from the front, permanently paralyzed from the waist down, bound to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. At this point, we shouldn't judge him with a cold heart. As a young man whose life was suddenly shattered, Clifford is terrified and desperate. To hide his deep sense of helplessness, he completely buries himself in intellectual books, high society gossip, and managing his coal mines. He becomes sharp and arrogant, using endless intellectual conversations to fill the massive emotional void in his life. He constantly tells Connie, "The body doesn't matter. Only the life of the mind is eternal." But Clifford forgets that Connie is a living, breathing young woman in her 20s, desperately craving affection, tenderness, and warmth. Every night, inside this massive mansion that feels more like a tomb, the only sound is the cold metallic roll of a wheelchair across the floor, followed by an endless silence. Connie doesn't feel like a wife in this house. She feels like a beautiful ornament put on display. Her body is growing cold, and her youth is being eaten away by loneliness. She doesn't know how much longer she can survive. Inside this golden cage, her soul is starving, like a traveler freezing in a blizzard, desperately wishing for a single spark of fire. To keep from losing her mind in the dead silence of the mansion, Connie begins to wander aimlessly through the estate's private woods. It is here, in this green sanctuary away from industrial pollution and emotional neglect, that she crosses paths with Oliver Mellors. Mellors is a quiet, low-born veteran. After witnessing the horrors of war and surviving a miserable marriage, his heart is deeply scarred. He has retreated from the world, building a cabin in the woods to live quietly among the birds and trees. He wraps himself in a cold, distant shell, expecting nothing good from humanity. In reality, he is exactly like Connie, a traveler quietly nursing his wounds in a quiet corner of the world. Until one day, a heartbroken Connie wanders up to his little cabin. Here, there are no grand, empty speeches about status, wealth, or class duty. There is only the damp earth, the fresh moss, and a tiny nest of chicks chirping softly. When Mellors looks at this high society woman, seeing her eyes turn red from pure, overwhelming loneliness, the icy wall around his own heart begins to crack. He doesn't offer her fancy words. He simply takes a tiny, fragile creature filled with life and places it gently into her hand. That tiny, fluffy touch of warmth completely breaks down Connie's defenses. In this cold world, it has been far too long since anyone, or anything, touched her with such gentle, unguarded tenderness. Staring at the chick in her hand, Connie weeps like a child. Standing beside her, Mellors looks at this lonely girl, feeling a quiet, long-forgotten desire to protect and comfort her. In this moment, sheltered by the forest, two souls who have been deeply hurt by life reach out across the invisible wall of class and gently touch each other's lives. It is easy for a conventional world to criticize this affair as nothing more than a physical escape, but Lawrence uses a tender, almost sacred language to show us the truth. This is not a cheap, sordid tryst. It is a moment of genuine, life-saving comfort for two freezing souls. Back at the Grand Mansion, language is cold and thoughts are empty. Everyone hides behind heavy clothes and formal titles. But in the pouring rain of the forest, when Connie sheds the layers of her aristocratic identity, and when Mellors lets down his defensive guard as a servant, they stand completely open to one another. In this moment, he is not a poor keeper, and she is not a wealthy lady. They are just two ordinary human beings who were on the verge of freezing to death in a cold world. When Mellors holds Connie close with his rough, warm hands, he gives her something far deeper than mere physical pleasure. He gives her a sense of reality. Feeling of being truly alive and cherished as a woman. Wrapped in his strength, Connie feels her blood flow again and hears the true beat of her own heart. She feels her withered, frozen body beginning to melt and wake up under his touch, like snow turning to spring. And for the deeply scarred Mellors, Connie's complete trust and tenderness arrive like a ray of sunlight, lighting up a dark corner of his soul that had been cold for years. They are using their basic human vitality to breathe life back into each other's souls, On the forest floor, surrounded by the scent of pine and earth, they make a quiet agreement. In an age that grinds humanity down into cogs and machinery, as long as we can hold each other truthfully and feel the warmth of another's skin, we have not become ghosts. We are still alive. When Connie becomes pregnant with Mellors' child, the quiet sanctuary they built in the woods must face the harsh, unforgiving judgment of the real world. Clifford's anger is entirely expected. If Connie had slept with a duke or a prominent writer, he might have found a way to overlook it for the sake of appearances. But choosing a low-born keeper who works with his hands and carries the scent of the earth completely shatters his fragile, aristocratic pride. He hurls bitter insults at her, refusing a divorce, desperate to use the chains of law and morality to lock Connie forever to the side of his wheelchair. But Connie is no longer the timid girl she used to be. Looking at her husband shouting about family names, titles, and property, Connie feels no hatred, only a profound sadness for him. She sees his true reality. Despite his grand mansion, his endless wealth, and his high standing, he is the poorest man in the world. His heart has been hollowed out by a cold social system. He will go his entire life without ever understanding the joy of holding a tiny bird in his palm, or the warmth of holding someone you love in a summer storm. She doesn't say a single harsh word to him, nor does she ask for his money. She simply and quietly places the keys on his desk. She chooses to leave with nothing, walking away from a massive inheritance and a grand title, carrying only a small suitcase with a few changes of clothes. It means that when your world becomes wider and your heart becomes warmer, you can look at them with peace, set down the keys, close the door, and never look back. Connie steps out of that golden tomb, feeling the gentle evening breeze on her face as she walks toward a real warm world. In the end, Lawrence does not give us a grand, dramatic fairy tale ending. Connie and Mellors are poor now. To escape the harsh gossip of society, they are living apart on different farms for a while, waiting through the long, slow legal process of their divorces. In the eyes of the wealthy elite, they are scandalous failures who lost everything. But when we read the gentle letters Mellors writes to Connie in the morning light, a deep warmth fills the air. They may not have an estate or luxury cars, and they have to work hard every day just to put food on the table. They possess something that high society cannot buy with all its gold: a healthy, warm embrace, a partner who truly cares for them, and a soul that has become completely clean and free under the sky. In a cold, frantic world that tries to turn people into machine parts, they have become like two gentle guardians of a fire, keeping a small spark of pure humanity alive in the cracks of fate. Lady Chatterley's Lover remains a timeless masterpiece of healing because it refuses to give us a fake, materialistic, happy ending. It uses a story filled with the scent of pine needles and the warmth of human skin to prove an eternal truth to anyone struggling with loneliness today. Life can be tough, systems can be cold, and the people around you might try to lock down your future with rules and expectations. But please remember one thing: never let your heart turn into stone. Go out and breathe the fresh air of the forest. Go out and find the courage to touch the warm, quiet things in life. Love a real person, work with your hands, hold each other close, and laugh out loud in the rain. Beneath the cold marble floors of wealth and status, the earth is always waiting for you. The moment you drop the pretense and embrace life with your whole heart, you will finally find your way to a peaceful field that belongs entirely to you. Undefeated, uncompromised, and absolute.